So ladies and gentlemen, my name is Manoj Agrawal. Some of you know me, or some of you don't. I am the group editor, I am the founder editor at Banking Frontiers magazine. At least Banking Frontiers you should know. We have been around for 20 plus years and have had the privilege of interacting with a large number of people like you through our editorial, through our conferences, through our roundtables. Today's topic, kinetic lending. Everyone knows kinetic, everyone knows what lending, and you put it together. I think something exciting will come out of it. So that's what we are here to find out today. To give a little background to the topic, as a child, all of us, many of us, especially people who are my age, would know that you lived according to what you earned, what your family earned. In fact, for me, as a kid, there was no concept of a loan. It was not in my vocabulary. It was not in my consciousness. At most, there would have been a maths problem in school which says a farmer takes a loan for X amount at such and such interest rate. How much does he repay? That's the best I knew about a loan as a kid. Today, I have all kinds of credit cards and a charge card. I don't leave home without it. Why leave home? I mean, even sitting at home, I need my credit cards to do all my online shopping and ticketing and stuff like that. And that's true for all of us, right? Today, people are taking loans for houses, for cars, for jewelry, for travel, for education, for medical, for home, anything and everything. So it's like today, a loan or some kind of financial service is there in your conscious deeply, right? That's how things have changed over the last 20, 30 years. Let me try to put it in a little philosophical perspective. Each of you can define what a loan is, right? Very, very crisply and precisely. But let's try to take a different perspective. So I'm trying to take a philosophical perspective. So it's like this. If I want to buy a car without a loan, I may have to wait 3-4 years. If I have to buy a house without a loan, I may have to wait 5-10 years. If I have to start a business and I need funds, it's a dream until I get a loan, right? Anyone who is in business lending will know all that. So what does a loan do? It brings the future to you, or you can say it takes you into the future. And anyone who is a science fiction fan will know that we call this time travel, right? So a loan is something that gives you the opportunity to do time travel without using any of those fancy technologies that you see in the movies. So that's a philosophical angle, something that I thought might be interesting to look at. But when you use a tool or a technology to do something spectacular like time travel, and I'm sure you've seen time travel movies, things do go wrong, okay? You end up in the wrong place or at the wrong time and then stuff happens. And if it's a movie, then the hero-heroine gets lucky and then things get resolved. But it's not always that easy. If you are using a tool or a technology which is not appropriate for that purpose, you're going to have a problem. If you do not know how to use that tool or technology for the purpose, again you'll have a problem. Some of these problems can be disastrous. Agreed? Many of these problems, there is no undo button. On your computer, if you're working something, you can probably undo a lot of things. Maybe not, if you made a payment, you can't undo that. But many things you can undo. But not so if you don't have the right technology, if you don't have the right expertise to use that technology. So the bottom line is that you must choose the right technology. The bottom line is that you must know how to use that technology. The bottom line is that it's a dynamic scenario. The competition keeps changing, the regulations keep changing, the business keeps changing, and you must be great at using the tools that you need, and if needed, change the tools. Because tools are technologies, they keep evolving. They're not stuck with us. Just as everything keeps changing. The winners are those who use the right tools, the better tools, the appropriate tools, who master those tools and then move ahead. So that's our objective today. Lending is a dynamic business. If you were using a tool 5 years ago, 10 years ago, chances are you should be looking at what you're using. If it is good, then chances are you need to fine-tune your skills, your capabilities, your understanding of those tools and technologies to meet today's scenario and the upcoming scenario in the next 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, as the case may be. Since this is all very dynamic, there is no textbook answer. You can't read this textbook and get all the answers. So the best way perhaps to upgrade your level is to talk to each other, is to learn from each other, is to talk to the people who are in the field, who are doing it, who are facing the challenges, who are making use of the opportunities. And so Banking Frontiers is kind of we help enable that, we help facilitate that by bringing the experts together from the industry into small sessions like this, small in size, small in terms of time. We're not taking an all day or all week or stuff like that. But we do hope that after that 2 hours or something that you spend here, you will go back from this level to this level in your understanding of how you can best leverage tools and techniques and technologies for this lending business to make your lending kinetic lending and not lending which is struggling in first gear or short of fuel or going through stuck in potholes, whatever it is. So what we're going to do is we have 5 tables here, as you can see. We're going to divide all of you into 5 groups and would like each of you to spend about half an hour discussing with each other. We have 5 tables. We have 5 topics for these 5 tables, which are technology, risk, AI, sorry, not risk, regulation. Technology, regulation, AI, ML, time and speed, and having multiple solutions versus having a single solution. Like putting all your eggs in one basket or having a few separate baskets. So my team will distribute a set of questions to you. Not questions, there are a set of discussion points for you. These are just to help you think in some kind of structured manner. Very often it happens in a discussion, things go here. If you're sitting with a friend and you start to discuss one topic, I'm sure you'll find yourself going to a second topic, third topic, fourth topic. But if we don't want that digression to happen, we want you to remain focused. So on each table, we're going to give 7-8 pointers for you to focus your discussion. I'm not saying that you stick to only those points, but those will be some of the interesting points, and you can add your own.
My name is Sangram. I am the head of products at Euro Capital.
Welcome, sir.
This is Rohit. I work with Pyramid Capital.
Rohit.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vipin Rai. I'm from Axis Bank. I'm working under IT.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Yatharth Bhualka. I'm a director at KPMG. We look at financial services.
Oh, okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nishant. I'm from Muthoot Housing. So I'll go first. Let me introduce my table at least. That's Srijit from Edelweiss, Lisa from Muthoot Housing, Milind from Muthoot Housing. We have Nikhil from CFS, that's Cent Bank Financial Services, and Subramanian from UNCIA itself. So we have an insider also on this. So our topic was regulatory compliance, and of late this is becoming such a burning topic because we keep hearing, RBI, penalizing and penalty of 1 crore on this bank and that bank, etc., etc. So earlier, it used to be quite a reputation risk for banks when they used to say we got fined. But now, willy-nilly, I think RBI is looking at making those penalties across. So regulation is getting more and more stringent. I think the regulator is also getting a little bit more focused on ensuring that banks and financial institutions are getting on the right side of the law, at least in terms of their interpretation. So we had a few pointers with regard to this. Our team discussed all of that, and I think the evils of so-called banking and financial services, as the RBI is trying to help resolve, is by putting more and more people into the most banks and financial institutions have a compliance officer, and there is a requirement for more and more people within departments of a bank or a financial institution to go and have more people associated with this sort of compliance. So one of the points was what percentage of resources are dedicated to compliance. So I think there is still a lot of attention that is required. People in the fraternity still don't attribute so much of importance to the compliance. It's only now people are getting more and more focused on it. So departments have 1 or 2 representatives under a compliance officer, but as depending on the scale and size of an organization also, as we get more and more focused, I think more investment in terms of people and infrastructure will be done. Technology, as some of us mentioned, will play a very important role in getting to that. Another point that we had discussed was what sort of business skills would be required, and I think this is something which I think needs to be imparted from the point of view of trainings. People need to get more experience in terms of understanding. At least when it comes to compliance, every bank probably has a different interpretation, because everyone, India and banks being land of jugaad, so we're all trying to understand, okay, are we on the right side of what is asked? Are we not on the right side of what is being asked? So I think yes, that interpretation plays a very important role, and in that role comes, the role of consultants, which is another point that we discussed. External consultants who liaison with different banks. They come and they have this understanding. So I think that is also another critical aspect of how we are in terms of compliance. And another point that we discussed was, are there single approaches or a multi-pronged approach to dealing with compliance? So I think yes, people come with different interpretations, people come with different understandings of how compliance needs to be understood. So I think a multi-pronged approach is more suitable for a bank or a financial institution in terms of meeting its regulatory requirements. So this is in a nutshell is what we discussed.
Great, thank you. Who wants to go next?
Thank you. Thank you. So our topic, investing one LMS, all eggs in one basket versus multiple baskets. So I just introduced my team. Thank you for appointing me to come and talk on behalf of you. So we have Keshav from Yes Bank, we have Niloy from Tata Motors Finance, we have Rajesh from Axis, Atul from IDFC, and Sudhir from Bank of Baroda. So in this topic that we discussed, first let me tell you what the team really spoke about. It's very, very difficult a topic to come to a conclusion if all eggs in one basket or multiple baskets. So should we have one LMS or multiple LMS? So it really depends on the size of the business that we're talking about out here, the kind of products that we have, the kind of environment that we are in. So for example, a supply chain kind of a product and a retail loan in the same house has a merit of having 2 loan management systems, because there is a monthly revolving or a daily revolving kind of product, whereas the other could be a term loan or a simple EMI based product. So the merit depends on the product. Then comes the part of size. Okay, so there are banks who are very, very big at this point of time. It becomes difficult for them to kind of do all their work in one particular loan management system. So they would want to break it down, but having all the legacy information in one becomes really, really important, difficult for them to break this down. So talking about pros and cons of, a single one and a multiple one. So the first pro that we're talking about, and my co-speaker spoke about regulation. Now today regulation has become such an important thing. So having multiple LMS means having multiple tech spans, having a dedupe, having different reporting tools for the RBI, whereas having one LMS could kind of support on that piece. Second is from the user perspective. You require multiple trainings. There is not too much moving around of people because they have kind of know one way of working, one LMS. In a single LMS, at least, you can move around from one function to the other. The con of it would be that managing multiple vendors, okay, negotiating with multiple vendors, having a larger IT team. So few of the pros and cons that we are talking about out here. Essentially what came out is, yes, you can have multiple LMS, but a single experiential layer, which kind of when you're interacting with the customer, that should be similar rather than having different type of layers. So what is the future looking at is that you could have multiple LOSs or LMSs, which is at the back end, which the bank or the NBFC kind of works with, but a single kind of a experiential layer, which the customer only interacts with, and you have your APIs and build through that. So as a group, we haven't been able to come to a single conclusion that should it be multiple, should it be double. It was a varied view. A lot of them said that it should be multiple, whereas there were people who spoke about a single LMS as well. So it's still undecisive. It depends on the kind of market that you are and the size of the book that you hold.
So my topic is technology. On my table, we have a compliance business. So I was only available for 2 different technologies. So basically, if we see earlier, orthodox technologies, we are taking volume from business. Basis of the volume, we design our architecture or the infra sizing and all. But moving towards, if you see, nowadays, we are moving towards the technology need basis. If we require the infra, that time we need X infra, then X-1 infra within same month. So we should move towards that. And second thing, in our technology point of view, we should move in our low-code, no-code things. Like we were discussing, if suppose we get a intimation from business at CIO that we wanted to launch this product by 1 month or 2 months time. If we are not moving towards this need basis or low-code, no-code environment, it's very tough for us to be first in a market. So every time we first will not help, but definitely it will help if you are first in a market. So your architecture is very important in such scenario, that you have an open architecture, configurable architecture, and that will definitely boost your business and support your business. Now we were discussing about the collaboration. So if you're designing any architecture or aligning any technologies, we should always think that that technology or architecture should support other internal or external systems, because in future we have to integrate with internal system as well as the external fintechs. Now fintechs is everywhere. Small utility solution we are getting from fintech. So sometimes we feel that instead of developing something internal in-house, we have already ready-made solution. So our technology should be collaborative, supportive to integrate with such solutions. Now, also, as my co-speaker highlighted that governing things, that nowadays anytime they ask for any kind of data. Now, not only data, they need access of your data. They means RBI says we need access of this data, we can take at any point of time. So, creating a right data lake, providing that common area, that data availability will always help you, because that will not create unnecessary stress, that will not use your resources, because sometimes we see lots of IT people are working on the requirement which is come from RBI. That is definitely impacting your timelines of the actual requirement, business requirement. So those things we have to think of. Also, security point of these governing bodies should be, we have to provide the right structure for this governing body. And I have one more point to put here. While selecting the technology, we should always focus on your business strategy. I feel that technology should be wrapper on your business strategy. If we see in COVID, people are in a hurry to adopt the latest technology, and at the end they are not able to justify their ROI to CIOs. So better you define the right strategy and then wrap technology over that strategy. So that is also a very key point. I'm closing my note here. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you all. I think I'll represent my team. It's Arya, who's from UNCIA. Sirish is my colleague from Piramal. Swapnil from Central Bank. Soumitra from Suryodaya. Vivek from IDBI. Rishi from SBI. And Dinesh from Sumeru Finance. So broadly we had a good quorum wherein to bring from SFB to a PSU to private financial services company to a government body like UNCIA, NGO space. So I think the topic we had was AIML. So I think broadly when we talk about AIML, it talks about way back like when we the first ever like from the customer experience. When you talk about customer experience, we have a lot of data around every space. When we talk about integrators these days, you have Pesa Bazaar, and there are various set of applications around the marketplace. So when it comes to choosing the right AIML, it's important to justify the total cost of ownership. And when it comes to the sizing, like large public or financial sectors company, wherein the budget and everything is not a constraint, there we can look for an in-house or solutions which can be particularly the solution should be in-house built and which can be very much limited to the organization. Whereas for the small set of services wherein the new fintech or new financial services company wherein the budget is a major constraint, we should look at outsourcing. But then again, when the data will go to public, the model will be a unified model for across the service space. Next is talking about the data quality. So any AML, any AI-driven model will work better the better data we have. If you input garbage, you will get garbage. So as simple as that. So whenever we are designing, like in one of my experience, wherein we were to design a candidate management system for using an AI/ML, where we took certain set of data where we go to campus and basis that data we give an output like whether to go ahead with the candidate or to not to go ahead with the candidate, and certain set of decisioning which we do in this model is quite helpful to various systems across the organization. So when I talk about AI/ML, is it limited to lending, it is limited to LOS, or limited to any supporting services which is required for the financial? It's not limited. So in every sphere we can make use of AI/ML. The human outside is the most important and the crucial aspect. So when it comes to a decision making, like one of the gentlemen in our group who mentioned like taking a decision for a financial services company for a farm loans, wherein the actual person or actual customer is sitting in the village. So the challenges are wherein they have very limited input, and like when it comes to lending, it is the total cost of again the lending. How will you define the ROI? So in such cases, AI/ML definitely plays an important role, and it's quite helpful. Broadly, we summed up the entire discussion that AI/ML can be chosen as a wise manner so that we justify the DCO and make use of right solution at right point of time to look at future. Thank you.
Good evening everyone. So I'll just introduce the participants from our table. There's Yuvraj from UNCIA Technologies. there is Atul from CSB Bank, Nilima from Centback Financial, Prateek from Ambit, and we have Vijay from Unity SFB. So the topic of discussion today that we were given was basically a business related topic, which was around time as a competitive advantage. And from a business perspective, what are the steps that we can do to minimize time to implement systems, testing, new launches, and today co-lending is a hot topic, and vendor management, etc. And then there is another question which is quite interesting: automation versus manual processes. So just to kind of put it in a nutshell, since we only have a limited amount of time today, I think what we at least agreed was that the core issue when you're trying to minimize testing or the deployment of a new system is that the first step, which is the requirement gathering step, normally isn't done well. You would agree, like, every time, there are a bunch of people sitting in the room, they will debate on what the customer wants and what we should do to deploy that solution. There is not good feedback which comes from the ground. So a guy sitting in a branch in Coimbatore, speaking to a customer in a regional language on his expectations of what he needs is seldom taken into account. That's the reality of it. And eventually it's a cascading effect, because once the requirement gathering is not done well, then effectively, the other pieces of the puzzle and the system development, those kind of, get translated into a very poor development. So the way, the primary way to actually minimize this is to do a very thorough job in requirement gathering. That is the first step. The second thing is that, normally what people do is that they don't have thorough BRDs made or FSDs finally signed off. So effectively, when you don't have an FSD signed off or a BRD made, which has all the scenarios listed down very crisply, and it's a lot of work, because you have to write if scenarios for almost every step of the journey that you're trying to envision, then effectively what is happening is that once the designer makes it, you will realize that this scenario has not been thought of, and then that becomes a journey by itself. So it's critical that the BRDs, and then there's a final sign-off document also, so that the requirements don't change. That's the other issue that we face normally, right? So someone says that this is what we believe should be done, and then they will say that no, there's no sign-off, you just go ahead and develop it, and then about a month later, then there's a lot of debate on it. Today, actually, what helps is the fact that we've got a lot of technology. So startup, fintechs, they're developing a lot of in-house technologies. So in our mind, at least, what we were thinking was that today first the systems used to come in a box. It used to be a single module where everything was hard-coded. Rules were also hard-coded. But today you have systems which have microservices of their own. So tomorrow, if you're not happy with the microservice, you could actually replace it with something else. So, and then there are low-code, no-code solutions also. There is a way of doing automated testing. So when you come to the testing of cases, nowhere, nowadays you don't have to sit and manually punch in a case. You could typically just automate that testing part also with real-life scenarios. And stress testing as well. So I'm just saying that, these are some of the solutions now, and obviously we have evolved and we continue to evolve. These are some of the solutions that will obviously help build a very hard, a good system and a robust system, in the way that it becomes hard and becomes it's stable enough to handle the kind of volumes that you would probably expect from growth, and it's flexible enough to change every time new technology evolves. Specifically, on co-lending, we actually discussed this as well. Co-lending also, specifically, now you have aggregators, you have platforms which are also coming up. So not every solution you have to always think of building in-house. I think, in my experience, I also have seen a lot of people who want to hold on to the code, hold on to the system, and they want to say that this is something that they built, which is good. I mean, if they have but the fact of the matter is that technology is changing at such a rapid pace that what they think of today is not relevant within a month later. So the idea of outsourcing the technology or finding the best fitment or a platform which is readily available is probably a good way to actually quickly deploy something, because for business, they need systems as of yesterday. It's never about, it's okay, I can wait for 6 months or I can wait for 12 months. So that's the thing. And on the last point of automation versus manual processes, I think, somewhere it's okay for some things to be manual. I mean, Excel is also a great tool at the end of the day. So it is not about, it really depends on the criticality of that, that process or that function that you really want to keep. So is it regulatory in nature? Definitely automation. Is it something which is an in-house reporting? Excel. I mean, it's not always that Excel is a bad option. Obviously, to scale, it's not the most viable option. But to start with, I think a business user typically, and from a product perspective, we love Excel. So for us, it starts with Excel, and then it moves on to say, "Chalo, theek hai, isko automate kar sakte hain," whenever we get a priority. So in a nutshell, this is what we kind of thought of, and this is our summary. Thank you so much.
Yeah, time for a few questions if anyone wants to ask our.
So the LMS one for all or one for each was the topic that you discussed. What happens is one for all is easier to comply with the regulation. Regulator expects you to present the data in certain manner. When you have multiple systems housing multiple businesses, it becomes so difficult to put it together and comply. So you are not able to comply. So there is a good possibility of you getting a flank. And another question to you is whether the automation or manual. The regulator wants you to automate everything so that your accuracy and they have direct access to the data that they want to. So all of you could.
Quick answers.
So quick one. See, I tell you what, when I started this whole discussion and I said pros and cons for one LMS, the pro is the regulator, the con is multiple, the data has to be kind of got into a data warehouse kind of a thing where it has to be kind of single source of truth is could be missing from the regulator's point of view. So there is no straight answer that I have. But again, with the CFSS coming in, you'll have to show that it is a single source of truth with multiple LMS as well. So there would be some consolidation that will have to be done at data warehouse level, which you can prove to the regulator. I think Atul has a point.
I can also add one point. If you see today, even the approach of all the regulators, I think they are also coming up the curve to a great extent. It's not going to be possible for all the financial institutions to have only one LMS going forward. So I think they are also quite okay in terms of you having a data layer or a data lake, and they will plug into that data lake directly instead of 10 or 15 LMSs or whatever you can have. So I'm sure regulators are also becoming quite tech savvy. In fact, they are the most tech savvy people, maybe much more than the bank. So they are definitely coming out with they should be okay with connecting to a common data layer and then instead of getting into different LMSs. So I think along with how the businesses are changing, I'm sure regulators are changing much more faster, which they have definitely realized, and that's the fact I think today.
Okay, great. Any more questions?
The second question that we had. So on automation versus manual, like I started actually, that if it's regulatory in nature, it's not negotiable. You have to do it. There's no choice. But for other processes, so that's only 10% of the problem. 90% of the problem is always about data reporting, internal data reporting, about you wanting any kind of data. So, at least personally, I feel that it's okay to start with an Excel. Because what happens is that once you are able to structure your requirements in a way where you know exactly what you want in terms of a dashboard, in terms of what data you want from the system, it'll keep changing. And once it's structured in a way, then you can always move to the automation stage. If you move it too early, then the problem is that you will continuously keep trying to automate it, but never using it eventually, because it still doesn't fulfill the requirement that you have. So it's, if it's regulatory, again, definitely you don't have a choice. But if it's anything else which is doable on an Excel, at least my personal approach is always that we start with Excels. We kind of understand the data. We keep looking at the data, keep adding data points that we feel are, and once we know that the requirements are absolutely frozen, we go in for automation.
Manual is a learning phase.
Manual is absolutely a learning phase, and I think that's the most critical part also.
I think one common point in all these topic is that what he is mentioning. It depends on where the company at what stage it is. That is very, very important. Just to answer to Sangram, I don't think in a lot of organizations Excel is absolutely no. They are just not allowing it because there's a huge damage to the data. Whatever said or done. I understand from where you are coming from product perspective, but absolutely in a lot of organizations Excel is completely banned now. So again, now there can be a scenario where a fintech company just started, or maybe a NBFC has just started a vertical. But in large set of banks or any other bank or private sector, it is not possible. It has to go into the digitalization mode, and you have to ring fence it from the regulatory perspective. There is no other alternative. So if you see, even I represent a public sector bank today. So there are hurdles, but it has to be done. There is no way out now.
Non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable.
Because in the industry,
see, in large sector bank, what happened? People keep changing. You just imagine you have lakhs of data on an Excel sheet, and the guy is gone. He gets a transfer order, and the transfer order is like you have to report tomorrow. So there is no handover process. I'm telling you the reality.
Misuse of the data.
Yeah.
Right. Anyone last question?
I had
And then we'll move on.
one point when someone was saying, just a point. You were speaking about BRD. So my question to all tech guys here and the business guys, BRD takes much longer time to close than the implementation, if I say.
Well, I can add to that, you have to be clear when you put it across to IT guys. It's simple.
I think just to add to a very similar point what he's been raising, how about looking at a new technology of this agile framework of implementing the system? So instead of trying to reach the 10th floor directly, means you will spend a lot of time in business requirements, BRD, FSD, that's the 10th floor.
Yeah.
But why you want to jump to 10th floor directly? Why don't you try the agile framework of climbing one floor by one floor, keep on releasing in shorter stints, shorter packages, and keep on learning from that. And then at the end you will stitch the entire bit.
Actually, let me make a small plug for what we do as well in the process. So I think very valid points. We also believe that most implementations which take a long time and don't get done get stuck with what I call the lowest common denominator. So there's a CEO who has a vision about what needed. So he says a few things, and from our side, let's say when we sell, we know how to respond to that, and that gets done very nicely. There's some combination of PowerPoint, conversations, all of that together. Then the implementation starts. There, it is like someone said, the operating team. They are the ones who are dictating what's going to happen there, and they are fundamentally coming from what they've been doing for the last so many years. They're not looking at the future forward. They're looking at, this is how I know, this is what I'm comfortable with, don't ask me to change stuff. And in this, between this is where the coin really falls, right? So ultimately what you get is, there's a massive gap between what the CEO set out to do, the rationale for the investment decision, and what finally translates into a product, and then to a solution. And then, like you said, the incrementalism is great. Today, it's absolutely possible for you to look at fundamentally how is the product designed, where is the design coming from? Is it coming from where you take something as a starting point and keep on customizing, or is there sufficiently parameterized to how you go about it? That's one part. The other is it a DevOps type of environment where, as you said, incrementally keep adding, and you don't stop the operations for you to dev and drop it in there. And that is possible today. I think the technology shift that at least I've seen in my life, where we started with a lot of these rigidities, and today, number of these conflicts are answerable in terms of how you look at it, what is your design principle you start with, and how you approach the whole thing. I think so, like you said, the BRD takes more time than the actual implementation. It just eats up the whole thing, and because you're trying to satisfy that, whether the person in Coimbatore, what he comes up with, or whether somewhere else, and that's not what the CEO wants. He wants something that will, enable him to be more competent in the marketplace. Where does that come in the conversation? So what we have signed is where there is a sponsor's engagement in the process. Is the CEO willing to sit in the quote unquote the committee, the whatever you want to call that, meeting at least once a month and listen to both sides and make those calls. After having said this is what I want, or is he leaving it to somebody else and to somebody else to somebody else to get the job done?
Yeah.
That's making a huge difference to what we see in the sitting on the other side of the room. And this is what we're trying to bridge in some way. We'll talk about that.
Absolutely. Let's move on. The question was, anyone wants to take up that agile question? Answering this lady's question. You kind of get the group picture, what couple of points that we have in mind. So this is the first question. In your experience, the single most criteria for choosing a lending platform is, and then there are 4 options. Think about it. Then I'll ask you to raise your hand depending upon which option you choose. Easy adaptability, quick go-to-market, robust comprehensive regulatory compliance, and futuristic. Option number 1, easy adaptability across lines of business. Who thinks this is the most important criteria? Please raise your hand. Compared to the other points. We have 3, 4. 4 people. Okay. Option number 2, quick go-to-market with new products. How many think that's the most important criteria? No one. Okay.
In fact, this question is, what should be your preference?
Yeah, I want to 1 to 4.
But that cannot be one.
It cannot be one. If you ask me, maybe the 4th comes first, and that can be a preference. Because actually,
okay.
Sorry, if it's a very situational and circumstantial.
So we are trying to do a statistical this thing rather than an analytical, just to get how many hands are getting raised for which point. It's just for comparison.
Next time we'll that.
Okay, let's go for number 3, robust and comprehensive regulatory compliance. And anyone by chance wants to vote for point number 4? Any? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. Okay, that's also a good one. So that was question number 1. Quickly move on to question number 2. Technology implementation in your company seeks to be owned and driven by who? This is again, here you can't choose all. You have to make one choice. The options are in front of you. Please think over, then in 5 seconds we'll start. How many want to choose option number 1? I see around 10, 12 hands. Okay. Option number 2, tech team. 3, 4, 3 people, 3 votes. Okay. Risk and compliance heads. Option number 3. Half a vote. Okay. Operations team as a primary users. Not much. Option number 4. Anyone? Okay.
See, actually, when you form a committee, actually every department comes in.
Right.
Then only the committee gets formed.
So actually, if any one of the teams takes the decision, that's a sure recipe for failure.
Good point.
Sorry, I missed that.
If one of the teams takes the decision to adopt which technology, that's a sure recipe for failure.
One does not support it still.
No, but the question is the technology implementation, right? So here you require the expertise role. A business they will think in their process. They want a lot of things to be implemented in certain frame of time. But doing that process, the things in the technology can go haywire, and there will be compromise with the technology. Because technology person, he understands the security compliance processes, what exactly need to be implemented. Hence, I prefer the technology team as well.
Actually, this question has 2 parts. See, the technology implementation needs to be owned and driven. When it comes to own, technology cannot be owned by technology expert. It has to be owned by you only, irrespective of the organization. Driven by technology leader.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. We'll move ahead. Next, what we are going to do is do a fireside chat with our host for the day, Hari Padmanabhan. Hari, may I invite you on the dais? Hari is the chairman of UNCIA. One thing you should do is ask him why didn't you name this company UNCIA. I did. I was very curious. Maybe you can, Hari, start with that question. Take a seat, and I'll come over.
Thank you all for coming. And someone said UNCIA. That's a great spelling, but it's UNCIA. The story behind the whole thing. Number of us were together in UNCIA. We've been working together for many years. It's a team that I've had the privilege of putting together maybe 20-25 years ago, and now quite a few people have continued with me for a long period of time. This is my version 4.0 of my journey, and I intend to continue till the day I pop. That's the whole way I look at it. So we asked ourselves why we're doing this. What's the idea? Why we really doing one more? And we went through a whole exercise with a coach for us to come together and personally relate to this whole journey and see what it is, and collectively come up with a common rationale or a raison d'etre for what we're doing. And it really came out that we really want to leave a legacy for the future. This is a company that I've had 3 exits in the past, but there is no exit here. This is a company being built for a long period of time. And so with that in mind, we said, how do we go about this? And this coach came from a background of looking at organizations. The theory is that, not the theory, the actual empirical data shows that while you all know the story about the comparison of the Fortune 100 names between 1950 and year 2000. Year 2000 was published. And anybody remembers how many names from the 1950 list was there in the year 2000 list? Fortune 100? Anybody? 4. Right?
That's all.
Yeah. So, and so companies are born and companies die. But there are some companies who have gone through this journey, and whether it's world wars, whether the Spanish flu, or more recently the pandemic, they have served, not only just survived, but thrived and become stronger in the process. What is it that makes it work that way? So what came out of this whole conversation, and what empirical data actually is proven, and there's books on this, is that these companies looked at an emotional connect with their customer, the key emotions that they experience when they interact with the customer. So we went through a whole exercise, met with customers. Of course, you can't ask that question straight away. You have conversations and you try what is there. Out of all that, we came up with 3 base tenets, 3 base emotions that I experienced, which were inspiration, freedom, and belonging. And when in that, then we had the job of coming up with a name that captures all of this in one place. There are no coincidences, is what I always believed. And at that time, I happened to see a YouTube video on a wildlife photographer, a French wildlife photographer, whose lifetime ambition was to capture the snow leopard on camera. And he took many years later, he actually went through a National Geographic funded expedition and captured the snow leopard. The snow leopard is one that lives in very tough terrain. For no reason, it goes to higher parts of the Himalayas or wherever it lives, on its own, takes a walk practically every night. It thrives in very tough conditions. It has no predator. It's a queen of all its surveys. It's extremely strong, rugged, and robust, but phenomenally agile and very fast. And it has a very pleasing countenance. So a lot of this captured how we think about our products. User experience, ruggedness with agility, in a tough platform, tough terrain, and wanting to lead this over a period of time. So the name resonated very well with what all we wanted to put together. And UNCIA is the Latin for snow leopard. And when I did research, I found out that it also happens to be the name of a Roman coin in the old days. So we deal with the coins. So it all came together nicely, and that's how the UNCIA name came about.
Nice one, thank you. So Hari, a few questions for you. You're a software man. So how many years have you spent in the software industry?
I wish you would ask me that question. Right, I think some of you may not have been born. I started in 1979, so that makes it 45 years. Yeah.
Okay. Congrats, that's a long.
Started with punch cards and unit trigger machines.
Okay.
Remember, and we've gone around this city taking a floppy disk out of my pocket, tearing it up and saying, this can store 64,000 bytes of information, 64,000, and that was huge.
Impressing people.
And people will say, wow, 64,000 in this space, phenomenal. So, you know where we are now, what a mobile phone.
Okay.
You should document the evolution that you want through.
That's in the works.
What deep insights or powerful insights about the software industry helped you navigate your own career over these 45 years?
I think the most significant perhaps, when I started, in 1979, I started my career in a company called IBM, which was the company that was given to the IBMers when IBM was asked to leave this country in 1978. And it had everything going for it. And there are two parts to it. One is the technology side, the other is the business side. The technology side, we had a product where the code was written, compiled, and the code was in a bank locker. There was no access to the code. And it was fundamentally designed as a financial accounting system. That's all we could sell. That's primary product that we could sell. And we had to make our quota. We had to earn our bread by selling that out in the field. So how do you take a financial accounting system, go sell, like I sold it to, say, Dippies, Herbertsons, for example, for giving them product-wise, branch-wise analysis of sales. So how do you take a product, take parameters which are there, and really with that reconfigure a completely different application without touching code? So that is the first thing I learned very early in life. I think that gave me the fundamental construct of creating a product company, and whatever I've done in my life, they've been in terms of creating product companies, and I completely kept away from as a services organization.
Okay.
Service was part of our product in terms of implementation and so on, but we didn't have body shopping and stuff like that. The opportunities were there, but kept out of it, always built products coming from that. The other lesson was, this company had the bluest of blue chip companies in their client list, the best of infrastructure, top-notch people. Everyone came from the first non-IBMer batch was all come from IIT, IIM, I came out of IIM, joined and so on. And in spite of that, within 5 to 7 years after I left in 79, by 83, 84, company was gone. So what was missing there was company which had everything going for them, did not have, the leadership was all people who were heading the business in the IBM days. So the leadership there, the overall larger direction of strategy was dictated from Armonk, from New York, from US. So the strategic thinking was completely missing. So what it taught me really was that you really have to think from a future forward, as I call it. So you look at, you take a call on where you believe technology will go, where this can happen, and take a call.
Okay.
But then you break it down to very fundamental basics and then start. So that's the combination.
Interesting. And this kind of thing would come only to someone who has spent a long time observing how things, because things change, but you have to observe 10 changes to find some kind of pattern or some kind of direction. Okay, Hari, next. You are a leader in the industry, and every leader works for a purpose. What is your purpose, and how did you chose that purpose? So you kind of briefly touched upon it, but if you want to expand on that a little.
Yeah, I would say the purpose, honestly the purpose came later. I can't say I chose the purpose. Purpose came later. I discovered the purpose over a period of time.
Okay.
In terms of what we were doing. So the best way I could express that is getting you home early. So what I realized, when we speak to our customers after we have done something, when you speak to a CEO, you speak to a operating head, you speak to a person on the actually working with machine. And I'm talking about, in this 45 years, the entire idea of technology implementation has gone through something which used to be called electronic data processing, to computerization, to digital adoption, to internet is everything, and I can go on and on. Now it's AI. But while some things have remained the same, fundamentally it's about how can you make something faster, easier, and everyone today says unless it's going to impact my top line or bottom line, don't even talk to me.
Okay, right.
So, if I were to summarize that, what comes out of that is, can you enable a CEO go home early? When I say go home early, can he meet his targets easier, faster, better? You know, in fact, we ran a campaign on that long time back. You know,
Okay.
at one of my CEOs on his yacht, other CEO on his golf course, and saying, you know, because he's using our product, he's able to do that, right? So getting him early. For an operating person, you know, can he go spend more time with his family because the drudgery is gone out of his business. So,
Perfect.
and that, you know, when we
Quality
started,
of life.
when we started to work with that idea is when this seminal, Steve Jobs, when he got fired. John Scully, you all know the story about how Scully took over. So when Scully invited Scully to the Apple campus, and as Scully was leaving, going back to take his flight back to New York, Steve asked him a question. He said, John, on your flight back, I just want you to think about this one question. Do you want to sell sweet water the rest of your life? Or do you want to change the way people live and work? So John says that, in his book that, he got out of the airport, grabbed a pizza and a Coke as he always did, and Pepsi, and went home. And as he was eating it, this came back to him and he picked up the phone. He said, Steve, I'm on. It just got to him that, the honestly speaking, I sincerely believe that I'm hugely blessed, because if you do something that you enjoy, number one, and number two, if that can impact people in terms of making it easier, better for them to do whatever they do, whether it's at work or whether it's at home, I think it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Like when we were designing the product that we are talking about, we didn't talk too much about product and stuff, that we'll talk later, but the only thing I said to my team is two things. One is, of course, implementation, we'll come to that. But I said to them that the same lady or same person who went home late in the evening, suddenly realized there was insufficient amount of, say, grocery for the next day, went onto a mobile phone and hit a few clicks and forgot about it, and it was there, or something else that we bought, who gets to the bank the next morning and does some loan processing. So how should the experience, why should she expect an experience for loan management or loan processing and processing loan application so different from buying on Amazon or buying on somewhere else? Why should they? Why shouldn't they? Is it possible to do this? Answer, of course, was no, but then the no turns into a much bigger possibility when you say, no, that's the way you want to think about it. So experience people talked about at the table I was in. So I think that's a huge give, and I think I enjoy that, and that's the other purpose I think that keeps me going about, can we make an impact in one more area?
So that should have been option number 5 on my poll number 1 question. That's interesting. Thank you, Hari. Hari, I visited your website and I saw 6 things that they prominently talked about. Reliability, the 3 of them that I understood, which are pretty simple, were reliability, security and pricing. But there were 3 other things which I thought were a little complex, maybe you can enlighten. Deployment, freedom and assurance. What are these and what's special about them?
Thanks. I'll do a little plug here because this is very close to our heart. So again, when we looked at this journey and we said, why are we doing this? We said, how do we make this impact really significant? Fundamentally, what we've experienced to some extent and we see across the board when we speak with customers is that every implementation is a huge pain. It's a huge pain. Like somebody said, BRD takes more longer. It's a huge pain because of how you go about the whole process of questions being asked, and it just goes on and on. And anything that, if you say the proposition with which a solution provider like us goes to the customer is to say that I know your business, we've built a product, the product meets your requirement, your demonstration, presentation, POC, you see, like someone said, you see 80%, 90%, 70%, whatever, you make a call and you move forward. We can't do anything better than that. Nobody can do anything better than that. But after that, what turns out is, whether you can many 3 alphabet acronyms, these, SOWs, and all of that happens, and it turns out there's a lot to be developed and delivered every time, and that goes on, and that delays the whole process. Number one. Number two, change requests. So once you implement a product, you want to make whether you're a new product to market, make a tweak, make a change, again it becomes a long process. How can we eliminate this? Again, the person who really puts all this together for us, he says, not possible in this business. So great, let's start with that. Let's start with saying this is what we want to do. And what I can say, long story short, is that we got a supply chain finance product which we took it live in 41 days. The target was 30 days. We took it live in 41 days. Another case took 70 days, and I said, where did the extra 30 days come from? Data migration. Right? So we addressed that in a different way going forward. Just last week we went live with our LMS in 70 days. And it's a one LMS implementation, out of which one business went live in 70 days, and we've got another 50 days to do the rest of the businesses, so get it all going. I think the way we looked at was, I believe, what do people do when they do get into implementation? There are a lot of questions to be asked. Questions may not be comprehensive. It depends on how much work that person has done before, what's he aware of, what's he not aware of, he, she. And that gives you responses. What we have really worked on is how can we capture all of this, codify. It's an ongoing process, it never ends. But I think we have come to a point where the base level has been created, and more experiences will continue to enhance that. And where technology has moved, from a time when technology was one which had massive license fee to be paid up front, you sign up with one and you're stuck with them for a long period of time, and it goes deeper than that, you can't get out of it very easily, to an environment where microservice architecture, everything is a small service, plug out, plug in, DevOps. Literally, you can today, as the system is operating in the field, you can make a change and, okay, we'll only update it, maybe late night and stuff, whatever else. But literally it's possible to do it and it's operating. This is what, Amazon has gone on record saying that they do something like, I forget the number, something 10 to 12 to 15 changes every day.
Every day?
It's in multiple tens, right? And it's an ongoing process. Nothing, you don't feel it, you don't change it, you don't feel anything, right? So the technology components, the architecture possibilities, the tools that are used have comprehensively evolved, completely shifted out. Low code, no code. I started with punching my Fortran code on a punch machine and loading it at 1:30 in the morning and falling asleep outside, sitting outside, waiting for an error report to come out and correct it, and so that I can get the next run for the next morning. Right? And today you're developing and deploying at the same time. So what's the comparison? So I think that shift has to be brought into the business in a lot more meaningful way. It's happened in B2C. The entire process started with B2B. B2B was the only way because computers could be only afforded by big people. But thanks to this genius Jobs and his iPhone, today now the B2C has led the technology innovation field.
Yes.
And we're trying to bring that back. So that's where it's coming from.
Okay. More of B2B, B2C kind of way of doing things.
What is evolved with B2C as the driver in terms of how you design, develop and deliver. And it's brought to B2B, where of course the agility requirement is not of that intensity.
Yeah.
In a B2C environment, based on the analytic data you've got in the morning, you deploy something by the night or the next day.
Yeah.
In B2B, you don't have to do that.
Right.
So that's the difference.
So we had one table on AI here, and of course AI is a big buzzword nowadays. Do you see AI doing coding? Is AI doing coding in your organization? Is AI doing planning or implementation? What are some of the nice things AI is doing at UNCIA?
Is AI doing coding? Well, some of them we definitely use AI tools to write the initial code. Say you want to do something, put it in there, you get a quick drop.
Okay.
But that is not your final code. That doesn't go into the product yet directly. There's work to be done on that.
Right.
So it is accelerating the process. It is not delivering the end result. Yeah?
Okay.
That's one part. But what we're doing in AI is, I think someone spoke about this as well. See, when you look at GPT, right, what's very often, there is a pre-trained transformer.
Yes.
It's what most important part of the pre-trained part. So it's what you trained on. Right? So what we're doing is we are working, actually we have our development center, the Center of Excellence in the IIT Madras Technology Park. And we collaborate with IIT Madras faculty and tech students who are doing this endeavor. What we're really doing is we are really developing a model where we looked at the credit assessment part, your credit assessment rule setting. That is a very, very key area where you want to see how you can rapidly, if you make a change in it, what are the impact on the NPA? Can I address a slightly larger segment of my customer base? And if I increase if I change one rule, if I move the upper limit by, let's say 5%, right? What's the impact on the NPA? Now that's a question you have. You have different people are doing different kind of data analytics to come to that conclusion. We're building an AI model which will relate the two and tell you that if you move this parameter by say 5%, the impact of the NPA will be less than 0.1%. So how is the comparative risk?
Okay.
Very early stage. We're not talking about the markets close to. I'm talking about this, but what's happening? What we are seeing is we can provide a heat map. We can't give a discrete data, but heat maps are getting developed now, where you give them a range in which you can move each parameter and get a range in which the NPA can move. That is beginning to evolve. We don't know how long it may take. I think in the next 3 to 6 months we'll be able to provide a little more meaningful end result which can start to impact what we can do with the credits.
Great, that sounds interesting. Yeah. I think a lot of opportunities, new ideas will also come in as more people in your team and among your customers get exposed to AI and look at the opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I think AI is a lot of hype after what's happened with ChatGPT, but it's really coming to a point where if you start to look at it at a very ground level in terms of take a specific use case and do the challenge really is the quantum of data you have and the spread of data you have. So how, essentially what is, you have a neural network and the processor, or the GPT, the T part, which has got all the coding is part of that. It looks at the processing is going at the parallel processor you use, so you're doing processing at a very, very high rate, doing a very large number of processes in a very short period of time. And the context that it chooses every time, the data sets it chooses keeps changing. So the context starts to evolve. So what you imagine putting together about 10, 20, 30, 40 geniuses in place, the neural network, connect the brains together. Right? Each one has got a different context. Each one has got different data sets in them. Right? And you connect them all together, and each time, and you ask a question, and to answer the question, you don't go through one route. You're parallelly going through multiple routes, right? You're capturing little bits from everywhere, and you're aggregating, and out of that, you're pulling out a result. That's a very loose way of describing what it does. But that's basically what's happening. So can you get all these contexts of from different experiential contexts summarized and pulled out as something else, right? Which is why hallucinations come and bias in that. Yeah. But that's the exciting part. The exciting part is now it is becoming real that I'll tell you a small lighter vein.
Okay.
So when ChatGPT just came out, and I just went in and I put a little query there saying that I said, please write a spoof on Amitabh Bachchan and Pran in the movie Zanjeer, set to today's context.
Okay.
And I was blown by the answer. The first thing it said was, I will not, it is not correct for me to say anything derogatory, spoof, so derogatory,
okay,
of a living legend like Amitabh Bachchan.
Wow.
But if, however, you were to kada kada kada. So that blew my mind, because when it's able to relate spoof, a name like Amitabh Bachchan, and say that as a practical human, I would not say something like this. That was.
That's also human.
It was even a fundamental shift in how you looked at AI.
Yeah.
And then we did various other things with it.
I'm sure all of you have interesting experiences of working with ChatGPT or other tools.
Yeah.
Great, thank you so much, Hari. Thank you so much. Applause for Hari. We wish him all the best in the next 45 years of his career. Keep going, keep hitting sixers. So we're going to have a little bit of fun, more interaction. So I'm going to ask a few questions, and I'd like maybe any of you can respond to those. So the questions are something you need a very quick and a very short reply. We call this a rapid fire. So here's the first one. If you were to make one recommendation to RBI regarding software, what would it be? Can we have the mics on the tables? Anyone wants to share what they would like RBI to think about in terms of software? Any thoughts? Any technical people here? Or regulator, not just RBI, any regulator. Yes, please.
They should be more open-minded when it comes to giving the approvals on cloud-based solutions for core bankings. Okay, they are actually very conservative when they give this approval to the core bankings. Yeah. Okay. So that is one
More
recommendation. Yeah.
Okay. That's all.
We have very limited softwares today where core bankings are hardly on the clouds.
Correct.
For bigger giants like SGFC, Kotak.
Right.
Basically, data protection and cyber security should be the major concern, because they are the controllers. So they should prevent the loss and theft to the general individuals.
Okay.
So that should be, as a controller, that they should take care.
So they should do more than what
They should.
Okay. Let's move on. Next question is.
Just one
Looks like a wild thought.
Yeah,
looks like a wild thought, but I think any tech solutions coming in the lending space should have a certification of RBI saying that I am RBI certified.
But RBI could set up some framework.
Yes.
A framework might make more sense than direct certification.
No, one thing. RBI has made a similar thing. RBI has done a very similar thing with the core banking systems with IDRBT. In fact, IDRBT was set up just to do this. But the problem today is the way RBI is operating and the way quarter on quarter or month on month circulars are coming. Before the certification process gets over, there will be some 50 changes which will be needed in the regulatory side. So,
good point.
And the other thing is probably what is the expectation from software? RBI, sometimes I feel RBI is also probably not very clear, and RBI is probably not doing a lot of consultations with NASSCOM, because we are seeing, because of RBI compliance requirements, I mean the type of legal contracts which are being now given by all of you guys. I mean, we are getting a heart attack sometimes. Okay, with the type of, it can be unlimited liability for even a simple customer complaint. Like, looks like that we are the software vendors today are the. I mean, I think Hari will be able to.
Yeah, I would add to that.
Yeah.
This is something which is a bone of contention. I think I written the point in one of those discussions. The point really is that if you look at the fines that have been levied, they have been levied primarily for lack of disclosure. Lack of disclosure has been the main issue. right? RBI has not levied a fine on somebody because they made 2 payments went out, which has happened. And recently there was a big case, I think Citi, $350 million. That was in the US, of course. But here, the cause for the fine has been there is a incident, something has happened, incident has happened. It has not been reported. So the real question is, and this will be another roundtable discussion, right? There is a regulated entity. The regulated entity is the one that has the onus of complying with the regulation.
Right.
The technology provider needs to understand that framework extremely well, needs to build in what is needed to provide that, needs to ensure that the reporting happens as part of what is being delivered, all of that stuff. But the regulated entity has to own the overall responsibility for compliance. That cannot be passed on to the technology vendor, because the technology, so there needs to be a lot of collaboration, validation, working with it. Yes, we definitely have a huge responsibility. That's why assurance is one of the terms in our thing. I mean, we talked about deployment and we talked about assurance. But we believe that the assurance is very critical, and that includes regulatory as well. So we read we have a person, we have one or two people who actually go through every circular the same day it comes out.
Right.
And check for what is there, what is not there, what needs to be done, and there's a process that happens. That we have to do. But the ultimate ownership and the liability carrying should be with the regulatory as well.
Let me just his point of certification.
Use the mic, please.
The point of certification which Vijay pointed out, my viewpoint that it will kill innovation completely.
Okay.
He said it right, because if the end user is the bank or the NBFC, they have to ensure the compliance part. If this certification comes, I'm not saying against RBI, but it will definitely kill the innovation part, because there are many small companies who are working on a lot of new things. Right? Yeah.
So now they have also added right to audit clause. So you also come.
It's a chicken and an egg story out here. If you look at it, the software companies needs to comply backward with the regulator and the regulated entity, and the regulated entity needs to comply back to the regulator.
Right.
Now, what will happen is, if the liability lies only with the regulated entity and there's no bonding agreement, the the provider can take it his own time while the penalties keep levying on the regulated entity. So there's no clear answer as to how you can resolve this. It's a very, chained effect or a dovetail which is being managed out here. Innovation will definitely go down as we spoke.
Yeah, right.
But the balance still has to come from the middleman, the regulated entity, and say the contract is only valid to a limited element where the liability falls back on the software provider.
One last
point, sorry. In my experience, and I've been in financial services and I've worked in NBFCs throughout my career, 7 of them to be precise. So in my experience, the RBI has changed quite a lot in terms of, you never had access to the RBI initially. Now you should see the way the FAQs come out every time there's a query. In fact, in COVID also, ECLGS, circulars and FAQs were coming out almost every second day. You could write into them and then they would respond on a query. So they've definitely changed. Also, another big thing that they've done is the sandbox testing, right? So you can provide wild solutions on the sandbox, and where they entertain people, and then they finally give a directive on that nature. And this was like unimaginable at our time that a regulator would even do something like that.
Absolutely. Things are changing. RBI is listening, and
they are. And the last point I'd make is that if you see the nature of penalties, right, it is always preceded with a notice that something is wrong. In fact, in the most recent examples, there was adequate notice given to those financial players saying that this is not in place, please fix it. And I've worked with companies in the past where even adequate notice was given on systems, on data quality, on reportings. It is only when you do not correct yourself, I know you're laughing, but only when you do not correct yourself after a certain time period is when they threaten to do a fine, and I think they're completely justified to do so.
I think that's a very mature approach overall that they have for the industry. They don't want resolution. So can you move on to this? Yeah.
No, this is a very important point. Okay, it covers every aspect.
Okay.
It actually defines the relationship between the software technology companies who are providing the core platform by itself, and the business of the NBFC is running on that platform.
Yeah.
And the relationship of the regulator related to their business. Actually, this particular point covers everything. So one side you have to satisfy the regulator also, the other side you have to do business also. You have to take a software also. How do you manage that? So
all kinds of partnership happening in this ecosystem, banks with insurance with NBFC, NBFC with mutual fund, whatever it is, And somewhere the regulator and even the regulated entities have to make sense out of it all. Where the partnership, where the responsibility passes on and where it retains. But I think that's a very big topic for discussion. Let's move on. My similar question, if you were to make one recommendation to the CEOs of BFSI organizations relating to software, what would that recommendation be? Yeah, Mike, please.
Please stay out of it. Just
stay out of it.
Choose the vendor with
So there is an expectation, there is a ground level reality, there is a team who has to bridge the two, but unless that is done, and in one way, there has to be some give and take. So it cannot be the place where things go wrong is when it's dictated from above, when there's a top-down approach. So I'm saying while there is someone who can bridge that reality and it comes to a situation where there's a conversation that is happening, then there's a good middle path on which you can actually build a very good solution. But the problem is that when CEOs come with a solution, and I'm just saying as a manager, I'm not just saying that.
Absolutely.
As a manager, when you come with a solution from what you've experienced, it may be very different from the ground reality. That is when things start going wrong. That's my personal view.
Okay, good. Vijay, you were saying something.
The partner that you choose, tech partner that you choose, has to be somebody who will not come and sell a beautiful story to you, to somebody who has been time tested and who has delivered in the market, and then you choose the vendor. Because there are times, I'm telling you this out of experience in the recent past, that a tech partner comes and gives a beautiful story and then you go with it, and then delivery is appalling. You lost time, money.
So what you see is not what you get in cases. Okay. Anyone else?
There is one more point on this. So even if you have somebody who is there in the market and you implement them and they become very rigid to the changes which is happening, and the team, the development team, they don't come up with what you get with the new players. So I do agree that the new ones, there are a lot of hiccups there because a lot of things that we need to implement, they have to build on it. But still, what we see in this industry, some of the known set are also quite rigid as far as their teams are there.
I think the core team who is working on this project should remain constant. That's very, very critical because when this team changes, the entire thing gets diluted. Because see, I understand CEO, all they are fine. I think they will come for a review. That's okay. But the from where the concept got started, the problem statement came in, the team got formed, the committee got formed. I think when these teams get changed, the entire implementation part gets diluted. Very, very practical point.
Absolutely.
Maybe just to react to his one word answer to that is stay out of it. In fact, I will modify it a bit and say instead of staying out of it, maybe stay out of the actual designing, but please bless it. Because unless the CEO blesses your product or development, otherwise the implementation team will just keep on fighting and it will go nowhere. So his blessings are definitely important, and the guidance of CEO is very critical, because he's the one who is, as he said I think earlier, he's the one who is guiding, or he's the one who is going to sell the product, and so his guidance and blessings are most critical. So unless he gives that, then only the but definitely he has to stay out of the decision making. I totally agree with him.
Yeah. So sorry.
So basically,
to clarify, once something is decided, then the implementation team should just focus on doing it, and then obviously he has to give his blessing. Otherwise, it's not going to.
yeah, totally agree. Unless his guidance and blessings are continuously there, because so many systems go haywire and they never get implemented. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a point to make. To give a slightly longer answer from an actual experience, if give me 2 minutes. So I believe this is the one. If I were to pick out of last 40 plus years, right, one implementation that I believe ticked all the boxes, all the objectives that were set from all levels, top to bottom. There's a Fortune 100 company. It's not a banking company, but there's an ERP implementation. Our ERP as well at that time. So the one person, the CIO, took ownership. And he first told the CEO that after all the evaluation, everything will happen, he said, I will take the ownership if I am the CEO of this top to bottom. So what does that mean? That means that I will choose the people. They have to commit from 6 o'clock every evening when the business gets done till 9 o'clock every evening for 45 days initially. They have to spend with me in the room. And they can't say anything. They can't say it's my daughter's birthday. They can't say it's my anniversary. No, nothing. 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. is my time. No exceptions. No leave. Right? If anybody needs, all leaves are cancelled for this period of time. So anything, all aspects of those people were in his hands. Right? And without his express approval, nobody could move out of that commitment. And everybody had to. And he said, I will run this. But he says, we will comprehensively rethink and redesign our complete business end to end, based on what I have seen is the possibility in the product.
Okay.
Which is the reason why we've taken the decision to go with this product. Right? And that's what they did. They eliminated the entire, they had an in-house sales team that could take calls and recorders, completely eliminated. So they redefined everything from scratch and implemented comprehensively new process across the board and got it done literally about 18 to 20 days prior to the original go-live date set. And then live on the go date.
So nowadays there's a company, the large companies are hiring external entity to cross-check.
To monitor all this.
No, it's like a quality check. What was asked and what has been delivered, because what is happening, the internal people are signing it off, which makes no sense.
Okay.
There's one company who approached us just a few days back. There's an external company now. I can name the company. Yeti is the company. So all the large banks have hired for them to check the last implementation process. What was the BRE? What was asked? Vis-a-vis what has been delivered. I think that's a very good step actually. The way it happens in an automobile, car nikalne se pehle hota na, the final quality check.
Okay. My last question. You're all familiar with the fact that elections have happened in Pakistan, and what is the outcome? Some election tha kya tha, some problems happened. You would also heard the news about elections in Chandigarh, the mayor elections, I think, and there were some problems there. So what I'm relating to is those were all manual elections, whereas here in India, at the national level, at the state level, we have electronic voting machines, we have secure systems. The software does the whole system management. And look at the beauty of that. Today we can really, I think most of us can say with confidence that our election system is running as per what it's supposed to do. Right? Whereas manual systems are prone to misuse. So the thing is that imagine the beauty of software, that it can give a nation so much power. It can give 140 crore people the confidence that their votes are not being hijacked. That's a big thing for democracy. Even today, all over the world, maybe 30-40% of the elections are suspect, right? Especially in certain countries, they are repeatedly suspect. And software has given us, in a sense, true democracy. or to what extent we would like to call it to democracy. My last question is extrapolate this further. What further do you expect to see in terms of a better society as a, not an individual, as a better society using software? What software can do for us? Please extrapolate and share what you think might be possible. Or let me rephrase it. What would you more like to see? Which other problems of democracy would you like to see? Of a bigger problem you would like to see that you think software is a solution?
See, first of all,
please.
See, first of all, this point itself is debatable, because if you see US, election happens in US is not through the software, it is still a ballot. So there's a huge debate which goes around, with respect to our, machines and vis-a-vis what happens in US. But definitely, I think.
Explorate.
Extrapolate.
Yeah, I think in terms of how it impacts the underprivileged, we talked about technology and democracy, but look at the financial ecosystem that we have. Whether it's direct benefit transfer or the sub-juvala being able to be lent to because the data that he is using is now digital, right? I think digitalization has shifted the lives of tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people, in terms of bringing them, including them in the financial ecosystem, and being able to track and trace and make it possible for them to, as you said, get into the future much faster. Time travel. Yeah, time travel. If you want to put it that way.
Yes, please.
Just one mention. One big change which I see nowadays happening is digital currency. I think that is going to be a very big, a game changer. What CBDC and ONDC, all these things are happening. So I think that would certainly build a platform to build more, different kind of technologies which we can extrapolate later on. Probably.
Okay.
So adding to that, I was about to say the same point. A few use cases I think which will come over the CBDC would be your government subsidies, first part, and the right use of government subsidies, because the CBDC can be a programmable one.
Yes.
So whether the person is Arthya or a farmer is going to use it in the right manner at the right shop and not misuse it, will become much more seamless. And I think that's the kind of society that will be developed in coming days through CBDC. The other
transparency.
Yeah, other aspects of softwares and digitization, what you will see is more on the health sector, where the kind of ease of online inspections and other pieces which we have seen during the COVID time will become more AI based and in a much better manner. It will start evolving, and we have seen some small use cases in many of the countries.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to add,
health is a big thing.
I think one industry which is going to evolve is the agriculture sector. Big time.
Okay. In what way? If you can give a one line.
See, as of now, there's hardly any technology utilization, in this sector.
Yeah.
This is completely manual and all just pehle chalta tha वैसे चल रहा है. But I think there's a big study which is done in US also. One of I've read that article. I think they are already implemented and they are far ahead in terms of technology implementation in agriculture. Now this is a big push which is going to come in India. And if you see even the recent episode which is happening in Delhi, right, the farmer protest.
Okay.
Right. So what is the government telling them? We are okay to give MSP, but to specific products, commodities. आप कुछ भी उगाओगे हम उसमें पैसा नहीं दे सकते. There has to be demand also. Right. So they are trying to correlate some, technology, intelligence, even to the sector.
Right. Thank you all very much.
So would just request your attention on the same. And with this, we will conclude the session.
How soon? How many? How little? How much? These are the prime questions our partners seek concrete answers to when they lay down the technology roadmap for digital lending platforms in their organization. we at UNCIA would request you to hop onto this quick tour that further elaborates what the above questions actually mean and then proceed to answer each in greater detail. At UNCIA, our endeavor has always been to find the best answers to these questions and guide our partners accordingly. More so now at a juncture where the country is poised for unprecedented growth and the need for finances and lending is at an all-time high. We have hence taken our mission a couple of notches higher, and the steps we have taken to get there is what we collectively identify as the UNCIA way. How soon can we go live? The answer to this depends on the 4 pillars that are part of any digital platform's go live: detailed solution design, quick configuration and integration, pristine data migration, and comprehensive quality assurance and testing. Towards achieving quicker go live for starters, we have moved our loan management system to a single platform that we have proudly named One LMS. The platform has the capability to create in a jiffy any loan product that a lender wants to quickly go to market with. We have parameterized all variables that form the bolts and bearings of loan configuration, right from institution definition, locational hierarchy of operation, interest rate cards at an organizational or business level, general ledger templatization basis events, through to the most critical aspect of loan and interest parameter setup. We have made them all configurable. This leads us to the next question our partners have in mind. Would UNCIA's One LMS house all loan constructs that we would need to go to market with? How many product types are supported? Be it the vanilla personal loans or gold loans with equated frequency installments, or a commercial working capital loan with principal due at the end of the year, or a home loan with an interest moratorium. A handful of mouse clicks and key presses is what it takes before the code of the LMS whirs up to your beck and call. For our supply chain finance platform called the UNCIA chain, we have followed a similar path. We have pre-configured 6 products that mirror the physical supply chain, taking as inputs the nature of buyer-seller parties, taking up loan exposure, obtaining disbursement proceeds, and repaying for the financed loan at the end of the stipulated tenure. Combinations of these have led to the following pre-configurations in our platform, namely supplier or post-shipment financing, reverse factoring, payable finance, purchase order or pre-shipment finance, receivable financing, and dealer financing. All buyer-seller combinations with the anchor company being on the buy side and sell side of the transaction have all been factored in as a result. In addition to the above, the UNCIA chain also has configurable modules where the financial institution can create a customer, assign him a limit, add him to a program if he would be the anchor of the transaction, and map buyers or sellers to the program as counterparties. Limits configured have the capability of being common across loan management and supply chain finance platforms. This allows a customer, for example, to have a term loan, working capital facility, and a supplier financing facility, all coexisting as part of the same limit. The UNCIA chain platform also features a transaction processing module which allows buyers, sellers, and financial institutions to register instruments, accept instruments, place requests for financing, approve financing, and disburse the instruments. Given requests from the market to automate one or more of these steps while retaining others as manual, we have pre-configured 50+ process templates that help enable all automated, manual, and hybrid permutations of transaction processing. Given such configurability of our loan management and supply chain finance platforms, we have started templatizing the gamut of steps right from solution design through to go live. UNCIA's proprietary Go Live methodology takes a unique path to guide you through each step. To quickly summarize, the entire Go Live journey has two phases: the Day 0 phase and the Day 1 phase. Day 0 represents the preparatory phase. Our unique methodology is set to perfect the art of solution design. In doing so, we also replace legacy activities such as preparation of REAMS or BRD or SOW documents and repeated iterations of these documents before they are signed off. The results being major time saves towards quicker go live. Further, governance aspects are discussed with our partners at this phase. Stakeholders from both UNCIA and the partners end form a joint team that will see the platform through to go live. Review cadences are agreed upon, charters shared, and go live plans finalized. The go live date is decided at this stage. While our solution architects guide partners on the above, UNCIA's integration and data migration champs start their work once execution of Go Live services commence. Commencement of such execution marks the beginning of the Day 1 phase of our Go Live methodology. In this phase, integration touchpoints across all participating systems of the lending institution are studied and designs worked out. Standard integration toolkits are provided to fetch data from our loan management or supply chain platforms or update the platforms with information from third-party systems. The data migration champ then guides our partner in preparing the right data in the right format. This is important since such data is then analyzed by our data migration toolkit. The toolkit provides the outcome of data analyzed as a percentage value which indicates the quantum of data that is proper and ready to be migrated. The solution design collated is configured in quick time and then moved to our internal quality assurance team to be tested at massive scale. We also perform a detailed regression test on the environment to ensure all aligned functionalities work coherently. This is done with an aim to detect upfront unexpected issues or bugs that may otherwise create issues in subsequent phases. By continuously enhancing internal testing capability, we also aim to maximize scenario coverage as against that achieved via general user testing while simultaneously minimizing time to execution. The configured solution is then walked through to the partner along with test evidence. The environment is now ready for additional user acceptance testing that our partners may want to perform at their end. Post this, the platform is ready to go live. Last but never the least, our partners can be rest assured of our partners' regulatory compliance and conformity to data security standards. We treat these as hygiene prerequisites a platform must have and respect their necessity, period. Actual solution configuration, walkthrough, quality assurance, user acceptance testing, and readiness to go live all form part of Day 1 activities. Day 1 is when subscription starts for our partner. Given our move to a pure play SaaS product, there is no implementation fee that gets collected. Instead, a monthly usage fee is paid by the customer starting Day 1 till go live. If processes are all-encompassing, how little can it cost, given ever-existing budget constraints? At UNCIA, while drafting our Go Live methodology, we have taken a conscious call to not have endless change requests and elongating project plans in our delivery. This explains our move to have a single platform for our loan management and supply chain finance products and a shift from implementation to go live services achieved via the Day 0 and Day 1 phases described. All this effort has been with the single aim of reducing time and cost spends, keeping in mind the cost constraints of our partners. Which brings us to the final question. How much load can this platform withstand once it's live and out there in the market? To answer ourselves and the market, We have recently done a performance benchmarking exercise that measures time to completion of day-end processes on our loan management platform. Our platforms were stress tested for their ability to handle up to 1 crore loan agreements for the day-end process. Time to completion of process was measured along with memory and CPU usage at peak levels and monitored throughout the entire activity. We concluded the testing with 1 crore active records for which the corresponding duration for the day-end process was 93 minutes. All this with 0 errors or abnormal terminations. A final word before we wind up. The UNCIA way is built on the UNCIA culture of daring to go beyond. We believe it is our unique language that gives us access to the UNCIA culture. If you replay this clip, you would find no presence of terms such as implementation or project except while describing legacy practices. These terms don't form part of our lexicon, for we get to perfection only when we practice, and we get to practice only when we challenge legacy. In letter, spirit, and execution, we are hence guided by the UNCIA way on our way forward.
Daring, I like that word daring, very powerful, considering what so many innovators, so many successful organizations are doing today, not just doing the traditional thing, but something daring. Hari, you want to say something in conclusion?
Any questions, including one question? I know that time is short.
Any questions?
The only thing I want to add there is that we've really done a lot of soul searching before putting this up and even starting this journey. And there's a lot of work that's being done continually to, there's no end to this, is an ongoing process. But I think the first cut that we've come up with, nearly about a year ago with the ACF and then bringing it on to LMS, we are beginning to see the result. I think we can get better. And fundamentally it's about putting back in the organization what we learn in the field. It's a very simple statement to make, but when you start to do it very consciously and start to codify that, you get better and better at this whole thing. So I think that's the fundamental thing. We sat down, multiple implementations we looked at, and a whole lot of process. We don't want to talk too much about the process. We actually, the people who experienced this, our major customers are like Chola's, book sizes you know, but and Chola, TVS, Mahindra went live with our SCF just a while ago. These are large organizations, Canfin owns, large organizations, large book sizes, and the adoption of this across multiple business lines. TVS will be going live with one LMS, like I said, in another 48 days. We're counting it day by day. 70 days are done, and 120 days for that. So we have taken this challenge very strongly, and monitoring and governing that as best as we can. And so far, to sum it, I would say that data migration and some tricky integrations. These are the two areas where we see that there can be some variations as far as configurability and workflow management and managing the changes. We're doing pretty decently. And those are the areas where slip-ups can happen sometimes, and try to see what we can do to really get better to tighten that. That's the net of it. And we've taken this all also on the change request, which is a big thing, and we're challenging our own DevOps to be able to deliver it. And that's so far, like SCF, the 4 go lives so far, and Mahindra go live, particularly the last phase of it, we were turning things around within literally 8 hours, 15 hours, 20 hours, changes going back in and back into the production. So we monitored that very strongly to actually see how it was going. And that gives a lot of confidence that we can come to you, say this, and then walk the talk when you challenge us with it. So thank you.
We looked at every project of ours and from our experiences, and now we saw the two areas take a hit. One is BRD or the user requirements and the testing. UATs are 3 months, 4 months, first mock, second mock, third mock, again multiple rounds of data migration. Actually never ending UATs and some 50 change requests will also come. So, as Hari was mentioning that if we do the solution design properly, now solution design is a big statement, okay. So how do we create a framework for the BRD by itself? So we codify the BRD itself, and when we look into LMS or supply chain finance, both are LMS. Same thing, both are LMS only. It's transaction processing and regulatory, along with accounting. So how do we structure the BRD in terms of codification, in terms of questionnaire, so we don't miss out on anything, and while we do validation across multiple teams for this questionnaire, like between ops and financing, there is a contradiction that automatically comes out. Because otherwise what happens, when you do a BRD exercise, you will discuss with somebody and you will go and discuss the same point with somebody, both have very different views. So how do we catch the contradiction within it and capture it in the full process, and also design the complete test scenarios and test cases along with that. So when you have the questionnaire responded, you have the UATs also designed, UAT or the complete test scenarios also designed along with it. So we get a sign off for both altogether and put the full thing in an integrated mode. So the questionnaire to configuration to UAT in a complete automated test environment, whatever extent it is possible. Normally in a LMS SCF type of scenario, 10% customization will be there, so 90%, almost 90% will be similar and 10% customization will be there. So bring it in an automated test environment, whether it is in our QA, and when you do your QA, we can just shift the URL, give you all the test cases which are running in our QA environment. You can run those test cases at the same time along with the test error. So the objective is to crunch the UAT from 4 months to 45 days, 1 month type of thing. So I would say that at today's date we are almost 80% successful, and we will take probably 6 to 9 months to make it fairly perfect. With the complete integrated questionnaire-based solution designing to UAT in a completely automated test environment. And the other thing which didn't come out, and probably in the discussion, that in this industry, single source has become a myth, and today every LMS implementations which you have are all different versions of the software running in all customer sites. And today, with immense pride, we can say that supply chain finance, 4 versions, 1 single version. From 1 single source, even if whether it is on-premise, okay, through CI/CD pipes, we are updating. So any update which comes out with one customer in 1 single test bed with single regression, same update goes to every customer. With immense pride, we have. I think this is one thing we are really proud, and we have done it. So means, and in fact we would invite. We took a little bit. I think we created this thing within 2 days. We would actually like to, more than the product, everybody knows what a LMS or supply chain finance is. We will be very happy to demonstrate our regression test bed with the complete test scenarios and test cases. Okay, and every test scenario and test cases which are getting executed in every customer site is also a part of that test bed. So Chola में जो testing हुआ है, उसका data test scenarios का data is available. Same thing you can run on your test scenarios also and can test it. So you don't have the pain of creating test scenarios. आपका पूरा ops team बैठ जाएगा test scenarios बनाने के लिए. That is by itself is a 6 months exercise. So we are trying to get rid of these inefficiencies which are there in the industry. So we will be there are we say that an innovating upcoming company. These are the few areas of, I think, innovations we have done, which we believe will be very, very impactful. So with that, probably I will conclude. Any questions? Probably we would like to answer.
So thank you all very much. Thank you, UNCIA team. Thank you, Hari and team, for facilitating this. All the best to all of you for 2024. Looks like a good year ahead for us in India. Take care. Have a great day.